Okay, what's up, everybody? Tyler Hangs, World's Strongest Blacksmith. Trying something new for the very first time. I'm trying to get into some longer form content on here, on YouTube, Facebook, my social medias. I'm going to start this off by doing a review of my current training program for the next 12 weeks. Never done something like this before. I just bought a new laptop, trying to figure it out. I just spent the past hour trying to figure this out. And I think I figured it out good enough to give this a go. So, giving it a go. I'm going to start off with my log press programming. My log press programming, uh, very basic. Going to start at 180 for a 3x3. And then I have two successive 90% back down tiers for 3x3 as well. That's first set. First back down set is 90% of my first set. Second set is 90% of my second set. Is 90% of my first back down set. After that, got high pin press. High pin press. It's me starting from right at forehead height and just pressing out from there. And that's typically what people call high pin press. For me, this is slightly different. This is actually not that. You know, I might add that into the next programming where I'm pressing from forehead height up, just so I can that kind of eliminates the leg drive portion of the log press. But what this is going to be is this is essentially legs completely straight, arms almost straight. This is the very last 2 to 3 inches of the range of motion on a log press. So it'll be very high up. And I'm essentially just doing overhead squat with my arms straight out, but without the legs. This is just trying to get tricep and shoulders at that very end range of lockout. Then after that is a low row for 5 sets of 10. And then for week 1, 12 for week 2, 14 for week 3. So it goes up by 2 reps a set for 3 weeks. And then I add 20 pounds and drop it back down to the 10 reps. So that's how that goes. It goes back up. That's to help me pull the log into my chest on the clean, because that's the issue I have on the log clean, is keeping it tight to my chest and driving my hips through. I don't think I will have a problem with driving the hips through just because of how much log I'm doing over this. Way this goes, I'll be starting log with 180 on week 1, and I will be building up to over this 12-week program. And week 1, that starts at 180 pounds. That goes all the way up to 235 pounds for week 12. That is for 3 sets of 3. I can currently do 220-ish for 3 sets of 3. So I figure I build all this up. I could do 235 for 3 sets of 3 at the end of this program. Back down sets starting in week 1. That's also for 3. My back down sets are also for 3 sets of 3. Week 1, that's 160 pounds. Week 12, that's 210 for 3 sets of 3. Week 1, second back down set is 140 for 3 sets of 3. Week 12 is 185 for 3 sets of 3. So essentially at week 12, my back down sets, my third back down set for a 3x3 is heavier than what I started with on week 1 for my primary working set of 3x3. So hopefully this works out pretty well. I've done this program before. Before this was 3 sets of 3. This was what I did before this programming. I've just added some things, moved some stuff around to benefit some other things. I've also added a second pressing day into this. Okay. After my main log sets, I go over to high pin press. That's 3 sets of 3. We're going to start at 300 pounds. and this goes up by 10 pounds a week. So that 5 second hold, what that says right there when it says 5 second hold, that is at the top of every rep on the 3x3. Hold for 5 count. So like when I have it locked out, holding for a 5 count, and that's to build like the little stabilizer muscles in the shoulder, and like that'll keep the log stable at the top. This is going for 10 pounds each week. So 300 for a 3x3, 5 second hold at the beginning, all the way to 410 pounds for 5 second hold 3x3 in week 12. I've currently done this exercise with 400 pounds. That was for a 3 count, and that was for a single rep. So I feel this current volume build, the way this is building, at the end of the 12 weeks, I can do the 410 for three sets of three with a 5 second hold. Low rows, they start at 90 pounds for a set of 10, go up 2 reps for 3 weeks before dropping back down, going up 20 pounds. So that starts at 90 for a set of 10, and then goes up to 150 for a set of for 5 sets of 14 at the end of this program. Log day, that feels that's that. I think that's everything for log. After log, go over to the day that causes the most controversy. Whenever I post a video up on Facebook of it, that would be my squat day. Okay, the way this is going to work. My squat day. First, how to word this. Before I go in depth on my squat day, going over my squat, because I feel this is needed to be said before I go over this. My squat is not built for a maximum squat or squat. I squat high bar with a wide stance, barefoot, externally rotated feet. And I also squat in Cerberus 13 millimeter neoprene briefs. The briefs help out of the hole, really. They don't help with much of anything else. And I can squat almost similar numbers without the briefs as I can in the briefs. It's just I can do for 3 sets of 3 in the briefs what I can do for a 3 set for a single set of 3 out of the briefs. So the briefs really help in building volume on that, because they help out of the hole so much. The way I squat does not target the quads and glutes like most people think a squat should. My squat targets the spinal erectors, the hamstrings, in the adductors, the hip adductors on the inside of the thigh. I have developed my squat pattern for picking up objects off the ground, and it transfers over more to my deadlift than it does to my squat. And it does that through a combination of factors. It essentially puts me in the good morning position at the bottom of the squat. So that is targeting hamstrings heavily, because that is causing me to have to pull the bar over my foot. Yes, the bar does go over my toes at the bottom of my squat. I know that. I'm doing that on purpose. And so that's how that works. Also, the way I squat, I challenge anyone else to try to actually break true powerlifting squat style depth standards on that. You can. I've gotten some super flexible people in that squat position that is as deep as anybody has ever gone, is what I can do. No one's ever gone deeper than like that I have put in that position can go deeper. The weight actually helps force you deeper into the position. When you try to go with a lightweight, it doesn't, you can't go deep. So if I was to actually squat for a squat and a squat for what I use the squat for, yes, I would narrow my stance up. I'd take my feet from 45 degrees externally rotated to into probably 30, 35 degrees, somewhere in there. And I'd move the barbell 2, possibly 3 inches further down my back because I have an extremely high bar. It would still be considered a high bar position, but it would not be as high on my back. And I'd bring my hands in. And I'd probably get some heels. But since I don't, the way I squat is the way I squat. Okay. With that out of the way, we can dive into my squat programming. When I got my squat programming, it's also linear progression. The reason I'm using linear progression for this and not a peaking protocol, periodization, none of that. I don't have a competition up. So I figure I'm just going to linear progress to this. Week about 8 in up on all 4 of these days of programming is where I will be approaching weights that were heavier than what I did in the last 12-week cycle of this. Everything up from the last 12 weeks of this program to this one is about 25 pounds heavier than what I did in the 12 weeks before this. And except I'm following same weight progression as I did in the last squat programming of 12 weeks, except I've added 3 exercises and I have dropped the volume from 5 sets of 3 on my axle bar squat to 3 sets of 3. And I have made up for that by moving over by adding SSB and good morning squats and good mornings to the program. Because I recently failed a 600-pound squat using my squat technique. And what I feel failed me on that was my hamstrings and glutes and quads. Even though my squat targets those targets, the hamstrings, the adductors, and the spinal erector more than anything else. Traditional squat does target the spinal erector, but not as effectively as what I do with a high bar and whatnot. It's just other people might disagree with me. I don't care. They are not me. This is the muscle groups. When I train this, the next day is what I fill the squat in. It's just in those muscle groups. And so I've added in the SSB and the good mornings to address what I noticed when I did the 600-pound squat that I failed when I went into the hole. When I was coming out of the hole, I let the bar drift in front of my toes too much. And I was not able to pull it back over. When I squat, there is a fine line in how much I can let the bar drift over my toes and get it. And that's about a half-inch difference. And if it's within that like half-inch amount, it doesn't matter if I'm squatting 225 or if I'm squatting 550. If it goes over that half inch, I can't pull it over back up and get it at the squat. It's going to cause me to dump it. It's going to cause anyone to dump it if it goes a half inch further than where I want it to fall. And so that's what happened. I feel by adding the SSB squats and the good morning to strengthen my glutes and to reinforce that setback, which is SSB automatically wants to force you over. And so when I was squatting with the SSB versus the axle, when I go from the axle to the SSB, I will be narrowing my stance up to target the quads a little more and help with that lean over position that the axle, when I have my full axle squat, puts me in. Um, the way I've got my programming set up, it is similar to the log with the 3x3, but um, I'm doing 3x3 on axle on the squat. And so the way this works, axle bar squat, I'm starting at 315 for 3 sets of 3 and with 32.5 pounds of hanging weight on the side. The way I do my hanging weight is it's 10% rounded to the nearest 2.5 pound increment. Yeah, rounded to the nearest 2.5 pound increment on both sides. I have 1.5 pound plate. I have 1.25 pound plates, so that's what allows me to do that. The reason I'm doing hanging weights on this, and I also have hanging weights on incline press, which y'all shall see in a minute. When I am doing dog press, there's a point when I go to press where I stall out right above my forehead. And so that I'm trying to strengthen with the incline press, I'm trying to strengthen the triceps at that point of sticking point. So when it's off my chest, it's at a certain weight. But when I hit that point, they kick in. On this, it is similar. I tend to, when I pop out of the hole on squat, I tend to hit a spot about 10 inches up where my speed drops just a touch. And I have dumped some squats that I shouldn't have dumped at that hanging spot, at that little spot. So that's why I've got the hanging weight on the squat. And it's kind of like chains, but instead of chains where it's link by link coming off the ground, this is immediate hit. That's that. Okay, now the thing that's going to confuse some people, my Anderson squats. I am doing a Paul Anderson method on this for 3 sets of 5. My full range of motion on axle bar squat is about 16.5, 17 inches. What I'm going to do with the Anderson squat is I'm going to cut that in a third. So from 16.5, 17 inches, that's going to drop to about a 5 inches. So on chain link 41, so that's 41 extra chain links. I bought some 12-foot chains and I have them hanging up. I posted a picture. You can go and look at that. If you want. On chain link 41, that gives me 5.25 inches of range of motion on that. So now I'll start with 720 pounds for 3 sets of 5, taking it through that range of motion. I'm fairly confident in taking 720 through that range of motion just because my yoke is a similar range of motion. When I'm lifting yoke, I'm lifting it about 4.25 off the ground. Is what I try to target when I do yoke. And right now my yoke is looking, I can probably do about 950-ish for a 10-foot walk and probably 1050, 1100 for a pick, which is pick is what is kind of what you're going for with Anderson squat, since it's just a touch longer range of motion. Paul Anderson, what he did when his squat program is he had a hole dug and he would squat at apparatus. And then the next week when he did his squat program again, he'd fill in that hole a little bit. And so he had the same weight and he was increasing his range of motion with that weight. What I am doing is I have a target at the end of this 12 weeks of retrying the 600-pound squat that I failed. I am going to increase the range of motion every 2 weeks, and I am decreasing the weight by 10 pounds every week on squat. And so when this program is done, I'm starting at 720 pounds. That goes down by 10 pounds each week. And then after the Anderson squats, we move over to SSB squat. This is the true volume. The way I have the SSB squat set up is SSB is at 75% of the axle bar weight, and it is done for 3 sets of 10. I've done 3 sets of 10 on SSB before, but that was not after axle bar squat and Anderson squats. So, what I have done is I have actually dropped the weight I would actually use on this for the first like 7 weeks, and that would build up to what the weight that I would actually be doing this for if I was doing strictly just 3x10 squats. So I start with 240 pounds for 3 sets of 10 on the SSB squat. The SSB squat's purpose is to help me build glute strength and quad strength. That's why I got the volume up so high on that. And with the SSB, my stance is narrowed and my feet are a little less externally rotated. So that helps me build that up a little more than my axle bar squat would. And since they're not really motion reflective of each other, muscle reflective, they bounce off each other. So that's pretty good. And then good mornings. I will be doing sumo stance good mornings, which instead of hamstrings, because that's the axle bar squat targets my hamstrings. Sumo stance good mornings, which is really wide out. These will target my glutes. I've done these before. I haven't done them in probably about 7-8 months because I haven't felt the need to do any targeted glute work until now. These light my glutes up like crazy when I'm doing them. That's the only muscle group I feel when doing these is my glutes and some spina erecta. But when you do the sumo stance, that really wide stance, good mornings, it targets the glutes. And then ab work. This is probably the one where it'll get the X most often because I feel with everything else, ab work will be good. But this is more since I got the alternating toe touch. The way this works is this is building up rotational core strength because I'm not doing yoke for the next 12 weeks. And I kind of want to keep that rotational core strength up because when you walk with a yoke, it really targets the core a lot. And I want to build that up. I want to keep that built up. And so what I'm going to be doing is GHD setups with alternating toe touch. What that means is at the top of the rep, I will touch my right hand to my left foot, and then I'll go down, back down. I'll hold at ground parallel, which is when my back is parallel to the ground for 3 seconds. I'll come back up. I'll touch my left hand to my right foot and repeat that. That'll be for 3 sets of 20 for body weight on opening week. And then the way this goes, we shall scroll down to week 12. My squat is going to be going up by 15 pounds each week. So in week 12, I'll be doing 480 pounds for 3 sets of 3 on the bar with 50 pounds of hanging weight. And I'll be doing my Anderson squat with 610 pounds on chain link 48. So this is where they really start to cross over into each other's territory, the axle bar squat, the Anderson squat. Axle bar squat, as I said earlier, my range of motion is 16.5 to 17 inches of motion of bar travel. On chain link 48, I will be approaching, I think that's 13 and a half. Yeah, chain link will be going to 13 and a half inches of range of motion with 610 pounds. pounds, and that'll be for 3 sets of 5 on that. So these are really crossing into each other's territory. So each additional chain link, yeah, I'm adding 2 chain links every 2 weeks. I think that's how that works. Yeah. Oh, I got that. I must have my math wrong. 45. Okay. Yeah. I'm adding a chain link every 2 weeks. Yeah, there we go. I did not get that written up right. I'm adding a chain link every 2 weeks. So by week 11 and 12, that would have gone from 5.5 inches with 720 pounds to 610 pounds for 13.5 inches of range of motion. On that, and the 480 pounds, my range of motion bar travel is 16.5 to 17 inches. That's really crossing into each other's territory. Anderson squats will not be done with hanging weights, so that's a little less territorial crossover. SSB will be for 360 pounds for 3 sets of 10 in week 12. The Good Mornings, 270 pounds for 3 sets of 3. And the GHC setups, body weight plus 30 pounds for 3 sets of 24 reps with alternating toe touch in 3-second pulse. So ain't really 3-second pulse, it's a 3-count pulse, so it's probably like a second and a half. Now my logic with Good Mornings in my axle bar squat, I feel whatever amount of reps I'm doing on axle bar squat, so 3x3, this is plus the hanging weight, so that's going to be 550 pounds. That'll be 530 pounds. My rule of thumb is with my axle bar squat technique, I should always be able to do 3 sets of 3 Good Mornings with a minimum of 55% for the same amount of reps to be able to get it. I went and tested my Good Morning, my sumo stance Good Morning, after I did my axle bar squat. And it was at 45% of the 600. So it was not where I wanted it. So where my general rule of thumb is. So I feel like that played the part in me not getting the squat properly. Okay. So that is my axle bar squat. That's my squat day. After a squat day, we go to incline bench press day. This one is extremely simple. Incline bench. And this is not the right program, but it is the right weights. Okay. Yeah, this is the right weights, but it is not this right document file because it does not include the hanging weight section. Maybe, yeah, no, it does not. Okay, so this is the bar weight. This is just the straight bar weight. My primary incline bench. The bar weight will be going up by 7.5 pounds each week. I'll start at 180 for a set of 3x3. And then back down set 1 is 80% of back down of primary set, rounded up to the nearest 5-pound increment. Back down 2 is 80% of tier 1, rounded up to the nearest 5-pound increment. All of these will be done with hanging weight set to 10% of primary incline bench bar weight, rounded to the nearest 2.5-pound increment. So with 180, that would be 17.5 pounds on each side. That'd be 17.5 pounds total bar weight. So the loading pins are 2.5 pounds each. So that would be a 5 and a 5, and the 1.5 and the 1.5 that'd be 5. Another 2.5, so that would bring that to 15.5 pounds. Yeah, that'd be the 5 and the 1.25 on either side of the bar to bring that up to the total I would need. So that would put it at 17.5 pounds on that. All the way to week 12, the hanging weight would be, since 10%, that would be 26.25 pounds if that was directly 26 pounds. So that would actually be 27.5 pounds of bar weight of the hanging weight on that. So my incline bench, the reason I'm doing the hanging weight on incline bench is when I do log press, when I get up to my 1 rep max, I hit a sticking point just above my head where I hit a wall and I can no longer press out. It is the transition point from leg drive to overhead press to the press out portion, and it is a sticking point for me. So with the hanging weight on incline bench, I hope to help myself overcome that. And is that since I'm already 33 minutes into this recording, I am not going to go back and fix this and try to pull this up, because that would screw this up. Now, after incline bench, we go on to day 4 of my programming, which would be incline. This would be my axle deadlift day. And that did not do that right. Okay, I have pulled from 18 inches using either the axle or the deadlift bar from 18 inches for the past about a year. I've had I think when I was cleared to lift from my accident, I pulled from standard height for about 4 deadlift sessions, and then I went straight to 18 inches, and I've been there for the past about 12 months. Yeah, it's been a big year. I've pulled nothing from but 18 inches for a year. So now I'm dropping down to 15 inches, and I'm not putting the Texas deadlift bar into this at all. This will strictly be axle. After this program is done, I'll do another 12-week cycle program. I'll do another 12-week program where I will be pulling from 13 inches, but dropping that even further. And then after that is done, I will drop it to 11 inches for 12 weeks. And then after the 11-inch one is done, I shall go back to standard height axle deadlift for 12 weeks. And hopefully that would, this is just, it's going to take, I think that's about, yeah, it'll be about that's 15 weeks at 12 inches, 12 weeks at 15 inches, 12 weeks at 13, 12 at 11. So the 36 weeks from now will be when I go back to pulling standard height for full 12-week program. The way I am doing my 15-inch axle, I am starting it with 1 set of 3. This is the first exercise where it is a single triple. From that, week 1 is week 7 of the 12-week program that I finished before this for 18-inch axle deadlift. So let me put this in viewing mode only. Okay, there we go. Okay, My deadlift, my top set on week 1 will be 500 pounds for a single triple. These would probably not be videoed. What I will be posting is my first back down set, last triple of that. So if you want to backtrack what I'm doing, come and watch this video all the way to this point, and this will show you what I'm actually pulling on my deadlift training. Or if you're one of the few people I sent this programming to review before I fully implemented it, you already know what I'll be doing. Okay, so axle deadlift that starts at 500 pounds. That's going up 15 pounds each week for 12 weeks. So that starts me at 500 pounds and takes me to 665 pounds for a triple in week 12. I've always been a pretty good deadlifter. My last pull from 18 inches was 700 for a single with the Texas deadlift bar. So when I run that conversion over, that would have put me at about a 660 for the axle from 18 inches. Before I pulled that 700 for a single with the Texas, I had static, and before static, I did not do a deadlift session for about 5 weeks. So that kind of put me in the hole, and I lost some momentum there. So I figured if I had done that properly, I would have pulled the 700 I attempted at static, and I would have gotten 750 on my YOLO on the Texas deadlift bar the week after static. So I figure with this progression, this is a progression for me. A lot of people say linear progression can't be done for more than 7-8 weeks. You'll burn out. I don't find that the case for me when I'm not peaking for a contest, when it's just general event training. Because I have done 5 12-week programs before this. And so that were like this that I've programmed for myself. Except for the about 6 weeks before static, I missed my training window there for about the 6 weeks just because of work. But I was on week 12 of that, and I was going to do like a 6-week mini peak for static exclusively, and that kind of went out the window. The way I'm doing this, my axle goes up 15 pounds a week, and then I do a back down sit. Back down sit, nothing fancy. Back down sit, 3 reps of 3 at 90% of the top set, rounded down to the nearest 10-pound increment. So that'll be 500 for a single triple, back down to 450 pounds for 3 sets of 3. And then, so in week 1, that's 450 pounds. And week 12, that's 590 pounds for 3 sets of 3. So that goes up. While this goes up by 10 pounds by 15, while my primary axle deadlift goes up 15 pounds a week, my back down sets go up 10 pounds a week. So that allows for a little bit of a stretch between those, so they can filter out more between them. So it goes from being a 50-pound difference in week 1 to being a 75-pound difference in week 12. So that helps a little. And it seems Jim and I did not do the rounding properly, or I did not put it in properly. Okay. Yeah, it didn't. This is supposed to be the similar rounded to the nearest 10-pound increment. On that, and it did not do it. I might have meant to do rounded to the nearest 5. Okay. My second back down tier after doing 3x3s is actually snap grip pause, and it is at 80% of the back down one. Pause immediately after box with snatch grip. This is kind of increasing that range of motion up. So this would be like pulling from 13 inches. If I was pulling from 13 inches, it'd be a similar range of motion of bar travel. 3 sets of 3 with 360 pounds. Pause immediately off the box for a 2 count is what I am aiming for. Once that is done, hamstring curls. Way hamstring curls is it is a drop set for 3 sets of 20, so 90 for 20, 80 for 20, 70 for 20 on hamstring curls. And then that goes up by 2 reps each week until for 3 weeks. And then it goes back down to 20 rep sets with 2.5 pounds more on that. So that's how that goes. So I'll be doing for week 1 on my hamstring curls, it's 90, 80, 70 for 20 reps each. And week 12, it's 97.5, 87.5, 77.5 for 3 sets of 24, or a set of 24 each on that. And then my snatch grip pulse for 3x3, that is supposed to be rounded to the nearest 5 pound increment. So that is supposed to be 475, not 472. Okay. And I think that covers everything. Calculation and progression logic. If anyone wants to see anything, training notes is just for me. And we are done.